This is the second day of the February 93 7-day retreat at Springwater. I have not mentioned yet that most of the talks come out of questions or comments that people make during meetings, private as well as group meetings. So it is what is being talked about is all of our concerns as they come up here in a retreat. Of course, something that may be discussed or gone into may not be your present concern, but over the years of doing this, people have said to me that it's amazing to what extent someone else's question is my own. I wouldn't have brought it up, someone may say, but I'm glad somebody did, and we looked at it together. I'm not trying to reveal the identity of people who say things or in group meetings. It is not private. And if there's ever anything that you wish to bring up or have brought up in a meeting that you don't want to be discussed in a talk, then please feel free to mention it to me and it will not come up. Obviously, I don't write down all the questions. I don't have time for that. Just a few that stick to memory, because I don't have time immediately to write it down. So it's not verbatim, accurately put down whatever we discussed. May also be a condensation of several people's very similar questions made into a new question. Which does not mean that you have to bring an interesting question to a meeting. I'm mentioning it because it comes up so often. Someone feels inferior, is not having a good question, and maybe also projecting that this is what I want, and wanting to please me or feeling bad not being able to do that. There are always enough questions, and I have not thrown these books away yet from other retreats, so we have hundreds of them. Don't feel that you have to come up with anything. We'll start from nothing. We can sit quietly, or let something come up or nothing come up. It'll be a good retreat together if we don't feel under pressure to perform, to do, not to do. Which brings up, one person said, so many rules are being posted here, and said, I really feel a little edgy that I may do something wrong, because wherever I turn there's a little sign. That's unfortunate. We don't want to make anyone edgy. These signs have grown up out of all kinds of experiences. And maybe it's a fallacious idea to think that a sign will prevent something from happening, a toilet from stopping up or whatever. So it's not directed at you personally. It just is. May or may not be helpful. If it makes you edgy and uncomfortable, then it's not helpful. Particularly if one comes here for a first time. I find that looking into oneself, being attentive, is largely an individual matter. I can do that alone at home. Why do we come here together as a group? Is there some significance in being together in silence? Is there? Is there significance? I don't know. Let's start from not knowing, not having an answer. I don't have an answer to this right now. We'll look and unfold the whole question. Obviously, looking into oneself, listening inwardly, outwardly, the J and the heart pounding, the words being said, the stomach gurgling, moving of a body on cushions. That's an individual matter. No group is needed, although one wouldn't hear sounds made by other people if one was alone. Also questioning, observing, examining. Fear, we'll talk about that later. Fear, anger, pain. Is it an individual matter? Is it a group matter? Or is it both? Sitting quietly, I can do that at home, someone says. Not many people can. Most people have family, live in noisy surroundings, city, maybe apartments, radio above, below, or family television. Demands, telephones, friends, job. Most people say that it is exceedingly difficult to find quiet time at home. Some people say it's impossible. And then there's also the mind forgetting to be quiet with itself, with all the distractions. I'll put it in quotation mark right now, like distractions that are there. Not to be quiet, not to look and listen inwardly. Not to follow through on some feeling, emotion, thought, dis-ease, but to rather move away, call a friend, turn on the television, go to a show, or work, overwork, underwork. So for most of us, it's not easy to come into this amazing situation of a beautiful place, light, spacious, clean, with lovely surroundings, fairly well organized to take care of some 40, 45 people, to be quiet together, up to a point. Not completely quiet in the bedrooms when several people stay there. That's why we have so many little signs and rules, but mostly is to guard the quietness. There's some others, but that's the main concern. And we do get feedback. If somebody doesn't find it quiet or quiet enough, we do get notes or letters which we discuss and incorporate maybe into a new rule or an old rule resurrected, which we had dropped. But on the whole, it's amazing to have this possibility to come to a quiet place for a week, to be fed, housed, and so forth. Have some work and lots of space inside and out to walk, to be alone. And yet the space is shared by some 40 other people. We couldn't provide this for each individual person. There are not enough days in the year. Unless what we're trying to do now, we build a solitary retreat hut where somebody who wants to be by himself, herself, can retreat in that hut. We haven't figured out yet times and calendars, schedules. 3 weeks, 4 weeks. just come to the building for what? We don't know yet how we're going to build it. But this retreat is not solitary. It accommodates 40 to 45 people because there are lots of people who want to do this, who are applying. So we take as many as we can. And maybe in doing this together there are some implicit benefits in being together. That's what the person was asking. What is the significance of? Does it have any meaning to do this together? And can one observe one is here now for 7 days, 5 days, however long? Observe for oneself, not just get the answer from someone else, whether it is meaningful to be silently together with other people. We're in the quiet energy of being together without talking, except for little groups. Maybe something can come up about my attitude toward people, toward the others, toward women, toward men. Much more transparent and clearly arising because of the silence and the shared energy together of people not using energies in all kinds of other ways. So where does it go? It goes here into listening and looking, or dreaming. That goes on most of the time, some people tell me. But even though we are not openly, talkingly relating to each other most of the time, the mind keeps on going, doesn't it? Stimulated to project images about people whom we don't know. Because we don't know them, it's fertile ground for the mind to project ideas, stories, images, attitudes. And this is up for observation, because this is what we also do in our daily life. But we don't notice it most of the time. It's so automatic. And there's so much noise inside and out. Have very little transparency to these processes of building up images about each other and then reacting to those images. Amazing things have been told by people in retreat, sitting to someone, maybe getting a crush on this person, convinced this person is in love with him, afterwards finding out there was no such thing there. And yet convinced to see how real our images come on, as though they were the truth, telling us about something out there. But they don't. They tell us about something in here, what we want, what we have experienced in the past. Thoughts and images only in rare scientific or technological work really represent fairly accurately what's out there. But in our spinning of ideas and stories, they don't represent what's out there. They represent our own world of past experiences and desires and fears projected onto other people and objects around us. This would probably be one of the most important things to come clear in us, how this mechanism operates. And we started yesterday with asking, what's projected onto Toni? And me as a listener, a student, I don't use those words, but people use them, categorize themselves as students, and me as a teacher. But to see this in action, to be aware of it, and be in awe of the power of our imagery, to affect our moods, anger or hatred even, or lovingness. One person came to a retreat once and said, "I hate everybody in here and I know nobody." And then something happened during the retreat and she said, "I feel such lovingness toward everybody. And I don't know anybody, still not." Can you imagine if some 100 people, that's the largest retreat I know, someplace goes on, 100, 120 people, from the Bosnia, Herzegovina, Croatia, a Serbian community, and I mean the ones who are in charge of directing things, but 120 people came together for a week-long retreat and said nothing, just sat with each other, ate with each other, worked with each other, maybe heard a talk about image making and the power of it, the destructive, killing power of it. That would be a new way for a conference to come together, wouldn't it? Not that I'm missionizing about it, just the thought just occurred. Would maybe something happen here or there to come upon our commonness? We all make images, we all act of them, we all think they tell us the truth. We're all greedy, we want more, by force if we don't get it easily. Coming back to our not quite so dramatic problems, but they are of the same quality, not not the quantity. But we have similar problems with each other as flares up and is worked out or not worked out in this unfortunate area right now of Europe. Actually, remembering back to the first retreat I ever went to, 3 things stood out, first or second, the first ones that I went to at the Zen Center. It was a tiny retreat, it was 20 people in a small house, small kitchen. I was cleaning, I had to put something into a garbage pail underneath the sink, and approaching the person who was standing in front of the sink, she moved away so I could get to the garbage pail. And it just amazed me. Somebody who hadn't seen me come. We were all trying to tiptoe around, not be noisy. Moved aside. There was a welling up of something or other for this communication which needed no words. It was like a dance. One moves in, the other one moves out. Then there was also, in the course of, it was a very short retreat, I felt very loving toward the person sitting next to me, going through all this agony together. And afterwards we hugged, we hadn't met each other. And also one time, that was a later retreat in the other house, finding myself, and not really aware of it, in a very superficial mood. I was trying to enter the walking line from the toilet corridor, and a woman passed by really inwardly. There was an inwardness about her, the way she just walked by. And that, just perceiving that, what I call inwardness about this woman, made me aware of the superficiality of the thoughts going on, and something switched to entering and walking in a different way. So, in spite of all we say, no one can do it for you, we can have an effect on each other. It's mentioned all the time by people, somebody who comes into the bedroom caringly, not noiselessly. There's no such thing as moving or closing a door without any noise, but caringly, attentively, has an effect on the person resting there. There's something that we can communicate with, or maybe a switch in levels, just from the way we experience each other. And that has nothing to do with judgment or verbalness. It's immediate. It doesn't happen as long as the mind dwells in the judgment and story projecting mode. But one can become aware of that. Maybe just by somebody walking by in an unpresumptuous, inward way. Non-self-conscious, not looking around. Are you seeing my inwardness? We did that too. How much horror we could walk with and stuff like that. That has a different effect. Something else comes to mind. Once seeing a movie, it was called My Dinner with Andre. Maybe some of you have seen it, most of you. It's just a dialogue between two friends. I don't remember at all verbatim what this particular part of the dialogue came from or what surrounded it. But at one point, one of them is saying, can't we invent a new way of being together? Because all of our old relationships don't seem to work the way we relate ordinarily, habitually. The inevitable course of it, of going stale on each other and so forth. Could there be a new way of being with each other? They're also talking about the drag, asking each other out for a drink or for this or that. Could there be some different way of being together? This stuck to my mind. Maybe I'll look it up sometime. Somebody gave me the book, the textbook. Is this a new way of people being with each other who don't know each other very well? Some of us know each other very well, but others we don't. And yet we're here functioning together as a whole. All these different backgrounds, personalities, male, female, old, young, American, not American, irascible, or you could list all of these. We must be a quite an array of personalities here. And yet in walking, sitting, working, eating together, can we be with each other not just with our personalities? They are not important in this retreat. They play, in contrast to our daily life, play a very subordinate role. Maybe feel the beauty, the lightness of people who don't need to worry or watch about personality, background, past history. Not that it's eliminated, but it's not important. Yesterday in your talk, you spoke about a fine state of no separation. Just questioning what's there, just being that, whatever was said. That's what the person referred to. You spoke about that state of no separation. But this is just another bunch of ideas, thoughts, words. What is actually going on in me is not what you're talking about. Do we get the question? Something is going on in me, thoughts, whatever. And here somebody talks about a state of no separation, entering into something. That's not what's going on for me. Maybe it irritates me to hear somebody talk about this. And this has been mentioned to me often, this irritation at hearing me talk about something. That's not so for the person who's bringing up this question. And I'm taking it seriously, because I'm always interested. What is the optimum way of conveying, getting together on the same wavelength? And it does happen. It does happen. People mention that too. Right in the middle of a talk, something clicking. And being there together, and this thing opening up. So, just to say I won't give any more talks doesn't seem to be the solution. And yet in giving talks is inevitable. Is it? I think it's inevitable from experience, at least. Has been inevitable that not everybody is there at this moment in time with the same energy. So, what do I do when here I sit? Thoughts, emotions, and a whole background of having wanted to be coming into a space of no separation, a tremendous yearning for that state. To me, it seems the most important state, the most important thing that could happen in my life. This is what I would like to devote my life to finding that state of no separation. But I haven't found it. It hasn't worked out. All I watch is thoughts about me and the others. And whatever all produces this feeling of isolation. And I come into a retreat, into a talk, and hear someone talks again about that state. I feel it's just one more incident of dangling a carrot. Making words about something. I don't want words. I don't want any more ideas that sort of stick in the mind like Teflon. And then I want that, and that's what makes for the constant churning. So what do I do? Coming to retreat, sitting in a talk. And somebody speaking. Pointing to a different state of being. And I don't want to accept anything. I don't want to follow anything. I don't want to believe in anything. I've done that. It hasn't gotten me any place. I've seen through that. And yet here, these words of listening without judgment, without will, without resistance, just wondering, what is this? What's happening right now? Can I listen to someone saying that? Listen to it without without what? Immediately opposing it, immediately coming in with my comments. But they come in. The opposition arises. The irritation is there. Can I listen to that? Not stick with words. I don't want words. Words I've used all my life. But what's going on right now in this organism? Because this is what the person is also talking about. What is it without the word? And it's there, it's physical, manifested in all kinds of ways. And I can notice by feeling irritated and the thoughts that maintain the irritation and that feed it, I can't listen to what the person is saying. I can't listen to the talk. I can notice that. That's an insight. Talk has passed me by. Now she's talking about something else. It's already moved on. And here, concerned with my irritation or the thoughts, whatever goes on, I don't read people's thoughts, but I know thoughts going on and maintaining a mood. That is available for listening to, for entering into, for discovering about. How this prevents an open, innocent listening of what someone says. Can I start with the least ambitious, ordinary, what's going on? And I may find I have sort of dismissed certain things because they don't seem important enough to pay attention to. I feel, somebody said this morning, I feel dead. Well, how does it feel to feel dead? What is it? Not going with the conclusion, not going with what that content seems to tell me about myself. I'm not dead. The heart is beating, breath is going. And that may be too unimportant. I've listened to that often enough. This is not the real thing, somebody may feel or think. Is that our problem? Dismissing the non-spectacular, the ordinary, the stuff that I'm used to? How can a shift take place from being used to something to not being used to it? To wondering about it? What is it? And what is it is not an intellectual question asking for verbal answers. It just means, what's going on? And therefore, a switch from thinking about it to listening to it. Or rather just listening, because I don't know what the two is. To what? I don't know. Listening is all that's necessary. A switch from knowing and verbalizing and mooding to not knowing, and therefore a little bit of attention for a moment, maybe in the beginning. Not asking for any more than what there is. Breathing is going on for every one of us, isn't there? There are bodily sensations. All kinds. Don't have to know them. Just listen to them, feel them. not know it, not be conclusive about it. Leave it open. Someone clearing the throat, someone moving, a bird calling. Open, not just focused on me, not knowing what me is, leaving it open. And what thoughts are coming up right now? To listen to those as just one more thing going on. Like the breathing, there's also the thinking. Thinking and breathing actually are connected with each other. Not so much influenced by the content of the thoughts, but aware of thinking going on, about to change into a mood. If the mood has already happened due to the thoughts that came up, how does it feel now? Are there more thoughts? Can they be heard? It ties into the last question I wrote down. Somebody saying, is it possible to listen to inward stuff in the same way as one perceives something outside? And the person related, in the morning, looking outside, seeing a pink cast of light over the snow. The sun was just rising, and pink light over the snow. And then, who knows where from, a feeling of pain. And then, who knows why, a withdrawing from the whole thing. And yet enough curiosity to wonder what's going on. Why the pain? Why the withdrawing? And then the question, is it possible to see, to look inwardly? Touch pain, the way we can look outwardly and touch a tree? As one comes to retreat or retreats, there is a growing sensitivity unfolding in us. Growing sensitivity and also vulnerability. It's an amazing phenomenon. We become more sensitive and more vulnerable. One feels pain much more readily and intensely, as though, the way I've recently explained that all the passageways were lubricated and cleaned out, so one feels more, and also more pain, more fear, more whatever. The passageways conducted faster, a thought immediately triggering a already laid down connected response. So, is it possible to watch the sun rising, spreading light across the snow with the same vulnerability as the pain that has resulted? Don't have to ask for an explanation, but maybe something will show itself. Why this pain? Something we like and something we immediately afraid of losing, is that in there? Pain and joy go so closely together. The pain of joy, the joy of pain. But can it be felt vulnerably, directly, just the way the pink cast on the snow was perceived? Not withdraw from it, not withdraw from pain. Questioning that old response which says, go away, don't touch it. It's just a habit. That's what it is. It's a habit established from precedents of having hurt it, not wanting to hurt again. But what's wrong with feeling hurt consciously for the first time in our life? Feeling fear consciously for the first time in our life, really touching it, entering into it. Which means the resistance that keeps us from doing it is seen and questioned, not gone with. Questioned. Does it have to be resisted? Does it have to be? Because this sounds all very time-consuming, but it can happen very quickly. To see a resistance and not go with it as possible. To see an habitual withdrawal and not go with it. Happen what may. Somebody was talking about it in a meeting yesterday, that actually it happened for her. Able for the first time of having heard this stuff, I don't know how many times, to enter into the fear. And there was no effort, there was no separation. And the fear was not what one had thought it was. Neither is the pain. It's different from thinking about it. But again, that has to happen here for oneself. The talking may just be words and may instill new ideas. Watch out, we don't need more ideas. We don't need anything, just be what's there. What is that? Caw, 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 and sunshine, and breathing, and whatever. What is it? We will end here for today.